Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Welcome to Track Talk, your connection coast to coast and beyond in all the latest news, developments, stake race analysis, and interviews inside the world of thoroughbred horse racing. From California to New York, Florida, and Kentucky, we have you covered. It's post time, live from San Diego. It's Track Talk.
And we welcome you on a pre-recorded special Triple Crown broadcast. The Belmont Stakes can justify be the 13th Triple Crown winner. We're going to find out here as we tape this special for you on Thursday afternoon, getting ready for a lot of action today. Inside the studio we go with Tommy D. Tommy D, just a couple years ago, 2015 to be exact, we were in the same position. Bob Baffert, Victor Espinoza, and a horse called American Pharoah. Now, 3 years later, we have a 3-year-old colt, lightly raced, Justify, trained by Bob Baffert, ridden by Mike Smith.
Oh, yeah, excitement here, Felix. So we got another Triple Crown chance here. Bob Baffert, like you said, unbelievable trainer. Now you get Mike Smith, Hall of Fame trainer Mike Smith, a guy that we've had on the show, and you want to see it happen for this guy because he truly is a good person, good for the game. Bob Baffert, one of the most respected trainers in the game, and maybe one of the best ever. You know, if he wins this Triple Crown, he's got to be talked about up there. But unbelievable to see the connections here, and having both guys on the show here on WS Radio has been awesome. You know, they've kind of led us to the winners in both races with Justify, explaining how good this horse is. And if you just listen, you would know. You know, now we're going into the last leg here, Felix, and it's going to be excited to see. I think Justify's got a real good chance to take this last leg home.
You know, when we talk about it, and we want to welcome everybody who's tuned in to WS Radio as we've been all throughout the Triple Crown prep races, or actually the prep races leading up to the Kentucky Derby. You can go back to the Bluegrass, the Arkansas Derby. You can go back to the Wood Memorial, the Santa Anita Derby, the Florida Derby, the Louisiana Derby. We've been there. And we've been trying to find out and isolate who's a contender and who's a pretender. Now, as we have done on recent broadcasts, as you mentioned, we have had the pleasure of having the top trainer in the world, Bob Baffert, joining us here on WS Radio, as well as the jockey, Mike Smith. And I want to go back with you, Tommy D. I want to go back because we differed on a lot of horses or a lot of colts that were getting themselves into position thinking they were the Kentucky Derby winner or they would be best suited to go a mile and a quarter for whatever reason. But after we had Mike Smith and Bob Baffert on this radio program, Track Talk, you read between the lines and you were all in with Justify.
You know what? I definitely made the switch after having them on the show, Felix. You know, I was looking at a lot of other horses, and then after hearing them talk on the show about this horse and comparing it to American Pharoah, you know, Bob Baffert, you know, making, you know, some kind of assumption that this is a super horse. The horse is big, smart, and it's got that big stride, and it moves fast. And, you know, and especially, you know, seeing the way this horse is coming out of these races, I think we got a real threat here. But, you know, it all comes down to listening to what they're saying, Felix, because they gave us Justify, and that's why I made the switch over. And this could be the next phenomenon. Justify could be the next Triple Crown winner here, just right behind American Pharoah. Yeah,
without any doubt about that. I mean, it's hard to go against him. Lightly raced. This is going to be his 6th race. He's 5 for 5. Came into the Derby 3 for 3. Started February 18th. But in addition to having Mike Smith as well as Bob Baffert on this radio program, sharing their love, sharing what Justify brings to the game of thoroughbred horse racing with his work ethic, with his conformation, his attitude, his disposition, whatever the case might be. We went one step further, and we got into Drayden Van Dyke, jockey Drayden Van Dyke's head in regard to working him and breaking his maiden. And therefore, Drayden knew exactly what kind of equine he had.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Drayden gave us that horse, said Justify is one of the best horses he's ever been on. And, saying that, Drayden's been on a lot of horses, young, talented jockey on his way up in the game and, showing himself really well out here in Southern California. Hats off. He's kind of getting role modeled by Mike Smith here. So Mike Smith taking the call here on Justify. But, yeah, Felix, it's all about the knowledge that you could get. And then, being here in Southern California, we got a little bit, being close to Del Mar and Santa Anita here, we got a little bit of connection to the Southern connection, and that's where Bob Baffert is. He's out here. Mike Smith is out here. Mike Smith started his career back in New York, actually, so he knows that Belmont track. So that's one thing that we'll talk about that I think is very important because there's long sweeping turns here at Belmont. And, it's really important for the jockeys to know the course. And Mike Smith knows the course, and he's a Hall of Famer.
Without any doubt about that, he knows the course, and he knows what he's up against. He went against 19 others in the Kentucky Derby, faced 7 others in the Preakness, and now he'll go up against 9 in the Belmont Stakes. But when we go back to the Kentucky Derby, where it all started, Bob Baffert had to rush Justify to get him into position in order to qualify to run in the Kentucky Derby with garnering enough points. It's all on a point schedule. Justify really was behind the 8 ball, but Baffert and the whole connection, Windstar Farms, knew what they had. We talked about the fact that Justify did not run as a 2-year-old. He's 3 for 3. He broke and he crushed the myth of Apollo going back to 1882. He is the son of Scat Daddy, who had 4 in the Kentucky Derby. The dam is staged magic. He won the Santa Anita Derby when he beat Bolt de Oro. It was a 2-horse, 2-colt race in the Santa Anita Derby without any question. And then he became the real deal. He was positioning himself to go into Kentucky. In the first Saturday in May, we saw an off track, but we knew from previous experiences that Justify liked an off track. He liked a wet track. When he put the field away together, when he put the field away in the Kentucky Derby, we did see a different dimension of this colt where the tactics used by Mike Smith was to get out, not have any mud hit in his face, and be the pace setter, which he did. We had the pace setter who came from the Del Roman's barn, if you could remember, that really sped out there. And I'm trying to figure out what this horse's name was. I can't think of it Promises Fulfilled was the name of the horse that Del Romans. And we had Del Romans on just 3 or 4 weeks prior to the Kentucky Derby. And he said, oh, yeah. He said, there's no question. I'm sending Promises Fulfilled to the front. And therefore, he did. Mike Smith got Justify out of the gate, put him in a perfect position, and then tailed the cheap speed, so to speak, until the far turn, then opened up and drew away. That was a pretty nice run from him, putting away 19 others.
Oh, unbelievable. And we talked about going into the Kentucky Derby and how it's one of the best fields we've seen in a long time. And this was on multiple. I mean, you look on the news, radio, everybody was saying this is one of the best fields we've ever seen. Justify did go off at 5-2 in the Kentucky Derby, but I mean, unbelievable. And in those conditions to beat out 20 horses, and it's very important. The jock plays a big part. Mike Smith getting Justify out of the gate without trouble to the front, and then from there it was history, Felix, all the way home.
Magna Moon was in the Kentucky Derby. Good Magic, Audible, Noble Indy, Vino Rosso, Bolt d'Oro, Enticed, Mendelssohn, Justify, Flame Away, Solomini, Bravazzo, My Boy Jack, Promises Fulfilled, Free Drop Billy, Lone Sailor, Hofberg, Frenzy Fire, Combatant, Instilled Regard. So now what we have here is the Belmont Stakes, the third leg of the Triple Crown. We have some who bypass the Preakness. We have some, 2 to be exact, to run every leg of the Triple Crown, and that would be Justify and Bravazzo. So we have those 2. But now we have some new faces that skipped, as mentioned, into the Preakness, skipped the Preakness to get here to the Belmont. Vino Rosso is one. Flame Away's another. Free Drop Billy is one that did not run in the Preakness. Hofberg, who did not run in the Preakness, and those are some faces that Noble Indy's another one that comes to my mind that bypassed the Preakness and got into contention and looked forward, pointed to the Belmont Stakes. So the question I have for you is very simple. We keep on making excuses of he can't do this, he can't do that, he can't do this, he can't do that. What do you think that Justify can't do today in the Belmont Stakes?
I think Justify could do just about anything after watching him perform in those first 2 legs of this Triple Crown. This horse has done nothing wrong, Felix. So I got to really tell you, I like the chances of Justify here, but I think the true problem would be is if there was true speed in the race. I think that's the ultimate trouble because Justify is going to be sitting right there. And if anybody pushes Justify a little bit, and, I know a lot of people are talking about maybe more distance for some of these horses coming off the pace, but in history, it's proven that it's hard for a horse to come off the pace in the Belmont. Not many deep closers have ever came to win this race. There's been a few, but in the recent years, not many. I think it's if they're not within 3 or 4 lengths at the second call, they don't have a chance.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I'll question that a little bit, but I'm trying to think now. But Birdstone,
you got to go pretty. Yeah, I was going to say it's pretty. But I mean, over most of the time, because people think you add that distance,
right?
And just an example, Bravazzo. A lot of people are on Bravazzo.
Exactly.
I don't love Bravazzo here. It ran in both races. I think it's going to be a little more tired out, and I think it has to be closer. So I think a horse that has more of a stalker pace and can sit off the pace and hit that button, I feel like it's a little bit better opportunity.
Without any doubt about that, a lot of folks buy into the fact that, well, this horse came on in 1 mile and 3/16 down at Baltimore in the Preakness, and therefore that he might be better suited for 1.5 miles. I don't believe that, and I don't think you do either.
No, not at all, actually. I don't think it always plays to that. Pedigree, I mean, you look at the pedigree, that's probably one of the most important things you need to pay attention to. But yeah, just because you're adding the distance, you think the horse is going to be able, just because it was coming on. But, in that last race, all credit to, Bravazzo had a really nice late push for Wayne D. Lucas, who we also had on the show.
D-Wayne.
I always get that reversed there.
D-Wayne off the plane.
Wayne D-Wayne, yeah, but obviously one of the best trainers in the world. So, but yeah, Mike Smith didn't even see Bravazzo coming late. So I think Bravazzo is a reach here. I don't even see it getting in the money personally, but, maybe it's got a chance.
Well, we're going to find out, aren't we? We talk about pedigree, and when I talk about pedigree and I think about pedigree, our next guest is Lauren Stitch. She is the queen of pedigree, and she knows exactly the breeding of each and every one of these who have entered into the Triple Crown Series going back to the prep races. She joins us on Track Talk on this Saturday morning. We welcome her. Lauren, at top of the morning, how are you?
Hey, Felix, how are you?
We're doing good. How's your Yankees doing?
Do you have to ask?
No,
they're doing great.
They're hitting.
How are your Dodgers doing?
Well, I'm not a Dodger fan, but this is not.
How are your Angels doing?
I'm not an Angel fan either. But
how are your Padres
doing?
There
we go.
There we go. Yeah, the Padres. We are in last place, but the good thing is we're only 4.5 games out of first place. Hey, let's talk a little bit about the run.
There's a silver cloud. There's a lining there. Okay.
All right. I mean, we got the worst division in baseball, without any doubt about that. Let me talk a little bit about your background. background, Lauren Stitch. You work for yourself as a pedigree expert. Your pedigree selections are on today's racingdigest.com, and you have followed pedigree. Share with our audience, and you don't need very much of an introduction for those who are in the know that, your key element of what you bring to horse racing is the love and the study and sort of the long history of pedigree. How did you get involved with the pedigree angle?
Oh, Felix, wow. Well, yeah, it's true. I go back a long way. I hate to date myself, but at this stage of the game, I figure, it doesn't matter anymore anyway. I'm old, and that's the way it is. No, actually, I go back way, way back. I've been studying this. Oh, God, I got involved with racing back in Gulp, 1963, 64. So I've been following since Chateauguay and Northern Dancer and Buckbass, all of them. And, it just was very lucky at a young age. I don't know how. I guess like everyone else, my dad loved betting. Not as much. He wasn't an aficionado of the sport like I became. But because I was watching what he watched, all of a sudden I got into it at 11, 12, 13 years old. And I was lucky enough that by the time I was 18, I decided to leave college at the University of Hartford way back when. And I went to New York. I was at the time, I'm from New York, but we had moved to Boston, a suburb, went to high school up there. And I came back to New York at 18 because I got a job with the old Morning Telegraph, which, of course, was the racing form on the East Coast. So, I was so fortunate to know Joe Hirsch and work with Charles Hatton, really some of the giants of the turf back then. And so I worked there for a long time, and then eventually through the years went to the Racing Times and American Turf Monthly and now today's Racing Digest. So, it's just been an evolution. But, yeah, I've been following this and the Triple Crown, of course, as I said, for about 55 years.
Unbelievable. Let me ask you a couple questions. I know Tommy is writing down some questions. I am as well. Are there 5 top families in the breeding as years go by that, as progeny and new generations of equines come forward, that their bloodlines are from a certain family?
Oh, absolutely. Although I got to tell you, with the years that go by now, a lot of it is getting diluted because of different generations, maybe poor breeding to stallions. But if they come back to breed right to the stallions, the cream does rise there. As you know, I'm a big fan of the female side. I think, the stallion is the males in the family. That's where you get your surface and your distance. But the female family is where you get the class of the animal. And since, of course, the dam can only have one full a year, and you see these patterns. And again, this year there's a very, very great example of that, which I'm sure we'll go into in a second. But yeah, there are, and of course now you move along, and out of nowhere you can get someone like the dam of Beholder, Leslie's. See, brain fog here. But it's Beholder, Into Mischief, and Mendelssohn. She produced these 3 horses. So you look at a dam like this, and you wonder, where did this come from? Because there really wasn't all that much back in that family. Leslie's Lady, I think, clever trick. And Speed, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter to whom she's bred. She is producing a very classy individual.
So you're looking at the dam side. Let me take you back. To something that all of a sudden has just disappeared. And I was sharing with Tommy Dean, the captain, and leading up to our Kentucky Derby broadcast about Dosage. Where did Dosage go?
I was never a fan of Dosage.
And what
I was
is Dosage?
Well, I'll tell you what it was, and then it's going back. I was a big fan. The idea of Dosage is not wrong. It's just that it didn't include the entire pedigree. It only included the stallion's offspring. And it didn't have anything to do with the female family. But everyone knows you do have a mother and a father. And so my objection began long ago, but especially culminated with Strike the Gold, when the dosage was like something like 9 or something, way out of whack, and everybody threw it out. And I said, you people, believe what you see with your eyes, and look at this. First of all, he was by Alydar. How can a horse by Alydar be that much, have, just speed? I said, no. And then the other side as well, out of, I think it was the Axe the Second or Hatchet Man, whatever it was, there was stamina both sides and the way that he ran, his running style. So he was my Derby pick, and once he won, Dosage, that's it. That was the death of Dosage, and it continued after that. Because I think the idea was right when you're looking at the offspring and how far they could go of stallions, but they really neglected half of the family. So, that's why I think it didn't last. It was like a flash in the pan.
Well, it lasted for a little while, but I don't know how many years that it has escaped our cranium, so to speak, and not being able to hear anybody. I remember there was a guy named Jack Nick. I think that he created the Knicks and the NIKS, not the KNICKS. Your Knicks up back there in New York. But what's the difference between dosage and nicking?
Well, nicking is what they do is when you're combining. Nicking is usually when you see a pedigree pattern of a stallion with a mare. Like with Secretariat, you had Bold Ruler and Prince Quillo mares. They were a phenomena back in the 60s, and the Phippses had almost all of that. Well, they owned Bold Ruler, but out of Prince Quillo mares, you had an uncanny amount of stakes winners, and that was called a nick. When they found something like nick could be an A or an A plus or a B, something like that. But dosage, very different. Dosage was strictly based on a number given to it for a stallion. And again, the thing that was wrong with dosage, it didn't, like say you had a first crop stallion, like his 3-year-olds were from his first crop. Well, they didn't have dosage yet. They didn't assign the stallion like a chef de race, meaning they were either brilliant or classic or intermediate. Well, they didn't get those labels until they had a few crops racing. So dosage, to me, ignored these first crop stallions. They were very capable of getting a horse going 1.25 miles, but they didn't have a number assigned to them, so their number was way, way over the dosage because there was nothing there. It was a very, not that complicated, but it just, to me, didn't make sense. And I think, you can't lose common sense when it comes to racing like anything else.
Lauren Stitch is joining us. She's a pedigree expert, and she knows her stuff. You can get her pedigree selections on today's RacingDigest.com. She's getting ready for a busy weekend of racing from Belmont with an undercard, 13 races. Of course, the Belmont Stakes. Will we see a 13th Triple Crown winner in the likes of Justify? Tommy D, for Lauren Stitch, if you would, please.
Hey, Lauren, how are you? Thanks for joining us. My question's going to be...
Hey, Tommy.
Yeah, so I'm a New York guy, too. I'm upstate New York. I grew up going to Saratoga, so I migrated out to Southern California. So if you hear my accent, it might come out a little bit when I'm talking to other New Yorkers here. But my question is, where's the pedigree play here in the Kentucky Derby? Where are you looking here, in the Belmont?
There's only one. And I, wanted to even say, we're going to see something very, very special on Saturday. And it's not going to be a Triple Crown. And it's not going to be Justify. It's going to be the emergence of a new star, and that's Hofburg. And I have been firmly in this horse's corner since he first ran his maiden race, of course, based, for my part, from his pedigree. But, it was Juddmonte, and it's Mott. And then he reemerged 5 months later in Florida in March, after running in September as a 2-year-old. But when he ran in March at Gulfstream in a 1/16 race, and he won, which is not an easy thing to do off the long layoff, but he did it. And not only that, he beat a very, very promising horse that ran second. As a matter of fact, on today's Racing Digest, which not redboarding, but it's on there, I had him pick first, and I think he paid $17 that day, and the horse that ran second was 37-1, and his name was Just Whistle. I was hoping Just Whistle was going to be running in the Belmont. Instead, Michael Matz, his trainer, of course, trainer of Barbaro fame, is running him in the last race of the day at Belmont, the 13th race. Definitely get on Just Whistle. He was third in the Peter Pan. This is going to be a very, very good horse by Pioneer of the Nile. But anyway, when I saw that with Hofberg, I said, okay, it's a little late to get on the Derby, and of course with Mott, I didn't expect that either. And then, of course, he was entered in the Florida Derby, and my heart soared. And even though he wasn't quite ready to run down Audible, he was nearly 9 lengths clear of the rest of the field in just his third start. And I thought, this horse has so much upside. We haven't seen anything yet. So I loved him in the Derby. He was my top pick. I gave him out. I loved him at 27-1. I was like salivating, except when I saw the rain all week. And I thought, not because this horse wouldn't like the slop. He's a Tappet. Of course I love the slop. His running style, you really have to be in the top 5 to do anything in the Derby at Churchill Downs over that track when it's like that. It reminded me of Smarty Jones that same year. So I didn't give up on him. As a matter of fact, when after the race was run and I couldn't find him, I couldn't see anything. It was hard to see the silks, the colors, and the mud and the dim, the gray. And I thought he was like 16th, 17th, and I saw he was 7th. And he got stopped twice, which was amazing. And it didn't bother the horse. He still had more gears. And the fact that he finished 7th and made 9 lengths up in the stretch, I thought, okay, all right. I knew he wouldn't go into Preakness. There was no reason to. So Mott did the smart thing, and now here he is. And from all accounts, this horse has absolutely been looking as brilliant and as flashy and as muscular and a monster as much as Justify is. But it's his pedigree that really did it to begin with. Yes, the Tappet, and of course there have been 3 Tappets that have already won the Belmont in the last 4 years, which is amazing in itself. But he's out of a mare by Touch Gold, who won the Belmont. His second dam is by AP Indy, who won the Belmont. But more than that, this is this. I don't think you can find a better female family in the stud book today. And this has been over the last 4 decades, actually. And this family produced Northern Dancer, of all, Danehill, Machiavellian. It just goes on and on. Halo, and of course Halo had Sunday Silence and Sunny's Halo. It just goes on and on. There isn't a classier pedigree. And of course with Juddmonte, it makes sense, and they got this family years ago. I just think I believe we've seen the best of Justify. I don't believe we've seen the best of Hofberg. And also the 3 races in 5 weeks. Now, years ago, that was normal. These horses, every horse that ran in the Derby basically ran back in the Preakness and Belmont. But that's before they had Lasix and other medication. And so now it's not that the trainers decided to train differently. It's that they couldn't race them as much because they need to get the electrolytes back and everything else to replenish. They can't run. They've got to run. They prefer every 4 to 6 weeks, maybe. And so this is the thing. But you've had a horse there going for the Triple Crown, makes it very difficult, for Justify. And of course, yes, you've got a fresh horse in Hofberg who is coming up better than ever. And I'm just so excited. I'm jumping out of my skin. I don't even think that he's going to win. I'm just wondering how by how many lengths is he going to win? Is it going to be a risen star kind of thing? I'm very excited, and I don't get that excited anymore. But Hofburg has me really excited.
Well, we could definitely hear it in your voice there. Definitely feel you there, Lauren. Bill Mott winning the race in 2010. And like you said, the Sire Tappet, Tonalist win in 2014, Creator 2016, and Tapra in 2017. And then on the dam side, I know you were speaking so high on the dam side there, Gold Touch and then AP Indy there. I think you're onto something there. I'm just a little concerned on Hofburg's lightly trained, and I see Bill Mott has the horse at Saratoga training, kind of keeping it away from all the action, and just brought it recently over to Belmont. Could you maybe tell us more about that?
Yeah, well, actually, Mott for many, many years now has done this. Yes, he's stabled at Belmont, but he's got a very, very large stable up at Saratoga, and he's been doing this for years, so that's not surprising. After the Derby, brought him up there, peaceful, great, and knowing Mott, Hall of Famer that he is, he knows what he's got with this horse, and I think he has now just finally turned the screws on this horse, and I think he has been trained to the minute. I don't think it matters whether it's fast or sloppy, nothing. I would prefer fast. I think everybody would, just to see this. For everybody, it's a level playing field. But this horse is just coiled, neck bowed, ready to go. And unfortunately, I'm not going to get 27-1. I'll be lucky to get 4-1. I realize now he's the second choice. He's the second choice, and I think that's more also a result of who else is in the race. I mean, I'm not really enamored with Bravazzo or some of these others. Yes, somebody's got to run second, third, fourth. Vino Rosso. I'm looking at horses that would want to run on, like horses by Curlin, like Vino Rosso and Tenfold. But I don't get excited about it. I do think Justify, of course. There's no doubting he's the one to beat. But I wasn't that enamored with his finish in the Preakness, to be honest. And for a horse like Bravazzo and Tenfold to get that close to him, and these are ordinary horses. Yes, the toll that it took, because, let's face it, Justify was as game and gutsy as they come, because he had to put away good Magic, and who really, really pressured him. But it wasn't even, very much, maybe a couple of steps past the wire, and Bravazzo was right by him. So I think he was all out, and yes, he's looked fresh, and they all say that, and that's wonderful, how great he looks, and he's going 1.5 miles, and it's his third race in 5 weeks. So I think the edge goes to Hofburg here, a huge edge. So we'll see now. This is exciting. This is what it's all about. But I don't care if it's 4-1 or 2-1 or 8-1. Hofburg's first. To me, they're all running for second after that.
Well. There you have it. Lauren Stitch talking about going all in with a Hofburg. We had Mark Cassie on a couple weeks ago, leading up to the Belmont Stakes, and he said more so than any of the races, the Belmont Stakes is your hometown, your home team, your home track, your home connections that win, because they come from all over in the Kentucky Derby, Lauren, as well as the Preakness. But I want to go, and quickly, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this because I want to go through the field. We went through the whole field in the Kentucky Derby, and I think we just got done about 15 minutes ago, didn't we, Tommy D, when we were going through the 20 that run here, but only 10 running in the Belmont Stakes. So let's go to Justify real quick. Scat Daddy, Stage Magic, Go Sapper. Can Justify get 1.5 miles?
Well, that is always the bottom line here in the Belmont. For the most part, just generally speaking, this is interesting. The Scat Daddies really prefer turf. Much more than dirt. And when they have gone a distance, it's been on grass, not on dirt. Justify already has won at 1.25 miles. Fine. But there's a far cry from 1.25 miles to 1.5 miles. So I believe, now the thing about Justify is he's inbred to this wonderful mare called Narrate. Narrate produced Preach, who was a Grade 1 winner, who produced Pulpit. She also produced the Preach's full sister, Yarn, who wasn't the racehorse that Preach was, but certainly was just as good a producer, producing Tail of the Cat. Second Dam produced Johannesburg. I mean, this is Minardi and the family of Round Table. But for the most part, again, I'm not enamored with Scat Daddy's going 1.5 miles on the dirt. So, there's a question mark here. But on his class, he's already proved it. Sometimes class can make a horse go a lot further than they normally would.
All right, Free Drop Billy, Tommy D. How many times have we been naming and how far we've been chasing Free Drop Billy? We were with Robbie Alvarado the night before the Breeders' Cup, and he said that Free Drop Billy would be the juvenile champion. He is disappointed in all of his prep races, maybe outside of one, going back to New York. Union Rags, Trenza is the mare. Giants Causeway on the other side. What do you think, Tommy D?
Yeah, this is a reach. Free Drop Billy definitely, I think, is going to have a tough time here. I think it's graded 3 stakes in the juveniles, 2-year-old that cashed in. But I think it's degressing. I don't like this one here. Free Drop Billy, I think, is a reach, especially coming off the pace far in the Belmont.
Lauren, why don't you like Bravazzo? Awesome again. Tizza Gold, sees Tizzy on the dam side. Dwayne Lucas, 8-1. You take it away.
I feel that he's got definitely one of the maybe 4 or 5 that could finish between second and fourth in your superfectas. Sure, I would not throw him out. I think he moved up in the slop for sure on that. I just think he's okay. He's not... doesn't, knock my socks off. But awesome again, yes, Breeders' Cup winner. Sees Tizzy. Aside from Tiznow, most of these horses were speed, California speed. There's not that much there. But, I definitely, as I said, to me, he's going to be one of the minor spots. As far as Free Drop Billy, I can't wait for Dale Romans to finally, what is taking him so long, to put him on the turf. He's a Union Rags, Dixie Union, nice turf. He's out of a mare by Giants Causeway, turf. And the Third Dam produced turf champion, Cozine. There's a lot here. Maybe he'll wake up when he gets on the turf. He hasn't tried it yet. But he certainly hasn't progressed from 2 to 3. So he's a real stretch.
Tommy D, we haven't seen Justify on a normal track, a fast track. We've seen him on a sloppy, a wet track, and he's done whatever you asked him to do. Lauren disagrees in the Preakness, wasn't really impressed. I was more impressed in his Preakness performance than I was in his Kentucky Derby win, simply put, because he put away Good Magic and then had to withstand a rally from Bravazzo and Tenfold. We don't know what the weather's going to be like. They say it would be maybe a 20 or 30% chance of rain here, but they're also mentioning that right around post time that they might get some precipitation. We might see 3 of the Triple Crown races all run on a wet track.
Yeah, that's very interesting to see. And, Justify, it's got to be some kind of advantage. I mean, it already won its last 2 races in the Triple Crown on a wet track. And Justify is a big, beautiful animal, and that's what my concern is. On the Pedigree, we're not looking at how big this animal's stride is. It's much bigger than the other horses, so Justify has to go a little bit less distance than some of these other horses. So it might not be bred a Scat Daddy, but Bob Baffert's going to have this horse ready to fire.
You know that we have gone down the field all throughout the Triple Crown races, and we brought you the breeding, we brought you the connections, and we brought you everything that you need to know in regard to how perhaps that race might unfold. The other Baffert is Restoring Hope, Giants Causeway. Symbol of Freedom is the mare. Another Tappet on the dam side. Florent Giroux, 12th in the Pat Day Mile, just really hasn't shown a lot. Lauren Gronkowski, definitely going to be really the fan favorite. Gronkowski is going to be there. The tight end for the New England Patriots, Tom Brady, will be there. They'll get a lot of camera time because Gronk has bought into this Colt trade by Chad Brown. Does he have an outside chance to maybe be in the exotics?
I think it's a very, very, very outside chance. He's by Lonhro. Lonhro was an Australian miler on turf. And the thing that's good is he's out of a Looking at Lucky mare, so he's got some American breeding here on dirt. Wasn't bought for that much money, $75,000. This horse hasn't run since March, and he's, to me, I mean, he's run in very, very weak races in England. This is really like there's no group or I mean, not even like an allowance races there, and he's done well. He won 4 straight, but that was back from November to February to March. It's a real outside shot. The best thing about this is that he's got Chad Brown there on his side, but I just can't see it. I'd love to see this horse just run on turf, where he started his first 2 career races in Newmarket. But to me, no, I don't really see it. Lonhro, 1.5 miles. You normally see the Lonhros in those 1.16 maiden special on turf at Belmont. I've never seen a Lonhro that's won on dirt here of significance in a Grade 1 stakes. Never.
Well, you know, when you look at the sires, we talked about Kentucky Derby, 4 sons of Scat Daddy that ran in the Kentucky Derby, Justify, Mendelssohn, Flame Away, Combatant, 3 sons of Curlin, Good Magic, Vino Rosso, Solomini, 2 sons of Medaglia d'Oro, Enticed, and Bull d'Oro. I want to backtrack to Hofburg, your selection, because of how adamant you were about Hofburg. He did not run a bad 7th in the Kentucky Derby. He was stopped twice. I did watch him. He was, the Derby, you have to throw some portions of that race out because my boy Jack was the one that had the real horrible trip, and he never quit running. But I want to go back to Hofburg in the Florida Derby. Was Irad Ortiz on Hofburg in the Florida Derby?
No, it was his brother. It was Jose.
Jose. Belmont has always been loyal as a go-to guy. I was just wondering why Joel Rosario or Junior Alvarado is not riding Hofburg in the Belmont.
Well, it's because Hofburg has been ridden from the beginning. Either his first race was Irad, and his next 2 were Jose, and then back in the Derby was Irad. So to me, this is normal. This is fine. He uses the Ortiz brothers very much, and the fact that look, I don't think Irad ever wanted to get off or Jose. So. They know what they've got. This. I don't think this is any big change here.
All righty. Well, Ortiz, no matter where you look, New York, Florida, Kentucky, they are always there. Let's go to Vino Rosso, Tommy D. Vino Rosso, 9th in the Kentucky Derby, won the Wood Memorial. Another son of Curlin. We have 3 sons of Curlin or actually 2 sons of Curlin that will be a part of this 150th running of the Belmont Stakes. When we look at Vino Rosso, no factor in the Kentucky Derby. His performance in the Wood Memorial might say that he's a late runner, a closer, which I think that fits his description almost perfectly. Maybe Lauren will disagree. What do you think about Vino Rosso, Tommy D? Yeah,
Vino Rosso, 3 wins in 6 starts, including a 3-length win in the Wood Memorial Aqueduct. This horse is a deep closer, 106 speed figure in the Wood Memorial. This horse started last in the Kentucky Derby, but still got up for a 9th place finish. And Todd Pletcher's in your corner. You got to like that in New York. And you got Johnny V aboard, and the same breeder that Justify, John Gutner, same breeder that is Justify is the same breeder for Vino Rosso. Very interesting. And this horse is a New York bred, so it's going to be in the home court there. And like you said, sire is Curlin Horse of the Year 2 times. Unbelievable. I don't like Vino Rosso's chances here. I like the horse. I just think it's going to have to make up too much ground, and I think these deep closers are going to have a big, hard trouble, catching up with Justify and the front runners.
Lauren Stitch is joining us, the pedigree expert. Today's RacingDigest.com. Today, RacingDigest.com is where all her pedigree selections are. She has been a pedigree expert for a long period of time. But I want to ask you, Lauren Stitch, in regard to the pace scenario in the Belmont, if Justify decides that he will play Come and Catch Me, will it set up nicely for Hofburg, or what kind of pace do you think will unveil in the Belmont Stakes?
Oh, I think Justify is going to have it very much how he wants it because he can dictate the pace. I don't think anybody in this field has his natural speed. But Hofburg is not without speed, even though it doesn't show too much here. He's not. I think they're going to place him wherever they want. I think with Justify, yes, Mike's going to have him probably right on the lead. If anybody wants it, he'll let him have it, but I don't think they will. And I think Hofburg, I would love to see about 5 to 8 lengths behind Justify. I don't want him going out with him. I think anybody that goes out with Justify it's suicide, but I think it'll also be suicide for Justify because of the distance. So I think it doesn't matter as far as Hofburg is concerned. He's going to be in the middle of the pack. He's not going to be far, far back. And as far as Vino Rosso, by the way, he's not a New York bred. He's a Kentucky bred. But he's not going to be all that far off either. I think because, remember, this is an entirely different race, a different animal. If they go 110, Justify's cooked. He's done. If they go 111, 112, this is a whole different ball game now. They're running 24, 25 fractions. They're not. The Belmont is unlike any other race. So they're going to be more close up there, like they were with Smarty Jones. Smarty Jones could have gone to 109 or 110. He didn't, but he was surrounded at that time. And I think the same thing's going to happen here. I think there's going to be many, many, many that are closer than normal because the pace is going to be slowed down. But I don't think it's going to matter one iota to Hofburg. He's got many, many, many gears, and as I said, we haven't seen them yet.
If Justify goes to the front, who is the most likely company that he will have on his hip? Would that be Noble Indy?
I suppose he would be, but again, we're not talking anybody very fast. We're talking, again, 47, 48, 49. Yeah, Noble Indy could certainly be there, but I think Vino Rosso is a much better animal than Noble Indy from the Pletcher barn. You've got an unknown with Seahenge, from Aidan O'Brien, but I just think, like the Derby that ran in the slop, the Pat Day Mile was run the same day in the same track on the slop. So just, put a line through that. There's just so many unknowns here. But again, to me, it's one horse and then it's throwing a blanket over 4 or 5 horses to run second, third, fourth, and fifth.
Tommy D.
Tenfold.
I'm going to ask Tommy D. in regard to the pace scenario. I know that, we've been right on in regard to the pace scenario in the Kentucky Derby as well as the Preakness. If the track comes up wet and sloppy, Baffert and Mike Smith will huddle up. I think that Justify only has one way to go here. I think that his plan of attack was to break. Now, you got 2 different scenarios for the simple fact what I'm going to share with you is that we're talking about a wet track versus a normal track. a non-wet track, a fast track. So there's two different things. And one thing that Bob Baffert said this week that has reigned supreme in my ears, Tommy D and Lauren, the fact that we have not seen Justify on a normal track. We've seen him twice now in the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness on a wet track. What do you think?
Yeah, but Felix, he has run twice and won on a fast track. His first race and the Santa Anita Derby.
Yeah, but we haven't seen that happen in the Triple Crown races.
Right, of course. But, I mean, we know he can run on anything.
Well, he broke his maiden back in February 18th at Santa Anita over the slop. And so the question is this the easiest of all three races for Justify in your mind?
Absolutely not, because he's got Hofburg. And also because it's his third race in 5 weeks. The Preakness was supposed to be the easiest because you're not facing most of the competition that you faced in the Derby. The Derby is always the hardest because you've got a field, or you've got 19 other horses, and that's always a problem. But because of his natural speed that he used to his advantage for the Derby, the Preakness is usually the easiest one to win because it's coming right back. And the thing is that you're not facing any competition in the Preakness because most of the good horses that ran in the Derby are not coming back. The only one he had was Good Magic. So that's usually the easiest. But I don't know, because of the Belmont and the distance and fresh horses coming in nowadays, that this is probably his toughest. Not if the Hofburg wasn't in the race, I would not be surprised if Justify could pull it off. Because, as I said, Bravazzo, Vino Rosso, Tenfold, Noble Indy, are these grade 2 winners? I mean, I'm not really that excited about them. But with Hofburg in the race, we're talking about something totally different.
All right, Lauren. Thanks for joining us on Track Talk. We're going to be excited to see exactly how everything unfolds. You're with Hofburg. Good luck. We'll talk with you real soon. Thanks for joining us, Lauren Stitch. Today's Racing Digest, the pedigree expert. We thank you very much for joining us on Track Talk.
My pleasure. My pleasure, Felix. Thank you.
All righty. We go into the Belmont Stakes here from Belmont, New York, with a lot of questions. I personally think this is the easiest of the three races for Justify. Your thoughts?
I think Justify's got a good chance. I'm not totally on Hofburg. I don't want to totally disagree here, but I think Justify is just an amazing animal. Bob Baffert just said the other day, I've never seen a horse work like this, and this is after running both legs of the Triple Crown. This horse is top physical shape. I don't think you have anything to worry about. I know it's conditioning, but Bob Baffert has this horse ready. Mike Smith's going to have the hands to get the horse home. I think with being the lack of speed in here, I think Noble Indy is going to be the speed here, and that's Pletcher's other horse. He's setting up for Vino Rosso, so that could be a look. But I kind of like Noble Indy underneath because I really think it's going to be those top front horses that are going to hit the trifecta superfecta. I don't think those late closers are going to get up, Felix. I
kind of agree with you. I kind of agree that Noble Indy and Justify will be on the front end. Vino Rosso is something is an equine that I keep coming back to. Hofburg ran 7th in the Kentucky Derby. I know that Lauren is real high on Hofburg. Restoring Hope, don't give very much of a shot to. Tenfold might be running on late. Bravazzo, not quite sure. Gronkowski, don't know about Gronkowski. What's your final thought?
I love Tenfold. Tenfold would be the horse if I think any horse that has the chance to beat Justify. Tenfold at 12-1. I like the price there. Steve Asmussen, we've had him on the show before. Great guy. Finished 3rd in the Preakness, but this horse looked good. Lightly raced, by Curlin. I think Tenfold has a really nice shot. I think this horse is on the upward swing, Felix.
What about the Curlins here? Could the Curlins run 1-2?
I think I don't think so. I don't love Vino Rosso here. Like I said, I think it's going to be tough for this horse to come from way back. But yeah, I mean it can get there. But I like tenfold over Vino Rosso between the two, especially 12-1 over 8-1. But yeah, Pletcher's back in New York, and that's what I meant to say by I apologize. New York bred Todd Pletcher's coming back to New York.
Wow. So. She corrected you on that, and that's a no harm, no foul in regard. We go through a lot of numbers. Thanks for joining us on this Triple Crown special of Track Talk here on the WS Radio Network. We'll cue it up tomorrow. We'll tell you exactly how it all played. For Tommy D, I'm Felix Taverna, produced by Wade Taylor in the WS Radio Network. And thanks to Lauren Stitch. Track Talk, good luck. Triple Crown Run, Belmont Stakes.
You've heard me bragging about Progressive Medical Center and how they've helped me feel so much healthier. But one thing, Dr. Agoli, that a lot of people come to you with is just unexplained pain. They just can't get any relief. Why can Progressive Medical Center's Pain Management Center help them?
First of all, we have to acknowledge that pain is for real, and you've got acute pain and chronic pain. Here's the problem. That acute pain turns to chronic, which is long-standing, and no one's getting to the root cause. There's several key diagnostic components that help us get to the root of what's causing this pain. Is it inflammation? Once we do a thorough evaluation to get to the root cause, determine if it's structural or if it's a metabolic issue. And this way, we put an individualized program for pain management involving correcting the spine, using certain injections when necessary, and we get our patients out of pain quicker, and they stay out of pain because we teach them how to live their life well.
Don't let yourself live in pain any longer. Get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today at progressivemedicalcenter.com.
Progressive Medical, this is your life, live it well.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple, and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com, on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
Are you a small business or nonprofit? Securing Our eCity Foundation offers free cybersecurity seminars so businesses of every size can become more cyber safe. According to Forbes, just one cybercrime incident can cost a company over $15 million. Protect yourself, your employees, and your business before you fall victim to the nation's fastest growing crime. Go right now to securingourEcity.org or call 619-630-2444.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.